A question was asked, and I kind of want to just expand it also, but we know that like identifying and getting access to kids, young people to these types of programs is a challenge. And then, just having them come, show up, and stay. So what would you say to people who are trying to put programs like this together around that challenge? What tips do you have or suggestions for engagement and access?
You said for the students or providers?
So access for students. I'm wondering from a program perspective, what do we do about that challenge? How do we address that problem?
Oof, I think it's a tough one. I think it's a somewhat at this point a slightly moving target, just because the needs are so unique for each individual person. So the approach has to be really intentional, I think, to speak to students where they are, and even in that, there's still layers, right? So I think just really, if we approach it with that in mind, then we can work towards something that ultimately is beneficial for them and everybody involved. But that takes intentionality, it takes relationship building, and a lot of times people don't take the time to build relationships with the kids, like you said. Daniel was talking about that a little bit, and just they want to hang out. That is what they want to do. They want to be able to be together. They want to be able to do all the things. I mean, I can attest and have heard that a lot, like, especially with the challenge of being in person during this time, and with some of the things that we've dealt with the pandemic. It's really made it challenging, especially for them. Even in a Zoom space, like I know all of my students are zoomed out. They're like, they do it because that's how we connect as well, with some of the location challenges. But they want to be able to be amongst each other. They want to be able to talk amongst each other, and do some of the things too, which it's an accountability thing also at that point. But the more they know that they are supported, the more they are willing to show up.
Yeah. Danielle and Kini, do you have any additions?
Yeah, I just want to recognize, and you're talking about both of you being nimble, right? It's like when youth show up, you really are meeting them where they're at, and you might have a plan for the day, but it's just giving them that safe space to be themselves and to decide where it's going, right? And so I think it's the adults that need to learn to be nimble and adapt to the youth that we're serving. And I think you said it, when they feel connectedness, and like they matter, and they can heal, they will show up. So thank you for your work, both your programs. It's right from the heart, for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna just echo. I think it's about that, like showing up and listening and being transparent about things. I think along the way, like if they're wanting to see a specific change, however, that is a change that is difficult because of funding reasons, or for like, it just takes time. Like, it's just not something you could do overnight. Being able to just like have that conversation with them and just be like, listen, our limitation here is X, Y, Z. We are going to try to think as many ways around it. But if we can't, like, that is our limitation. And like, how can we still work within this limitation to meet some of the things that we still want? Kind of not like just throwing in the towel, but also like letting them know that we also have our own spaces that we are pushing up against. And at times we can't always do all the things that we want to.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask one final question, and we have some folks who are still hanging on, so thank you all so much. I don't know if anyone has other questions. I can't thank you enough for your time today. And it's kind of piggybacking on what you just said, Daniel, but like, I think a lot of us on this call like want to do something, and we see this huge need, and we've mentioned COVID a few times as changing and making things even more difficult. What can we do as a community of of organizations and people trying to help youth better? You know, like, what can we do better? Do we need to coordinate better as adults so that we are, you know, providing things in different ways for young people? Do we need more funding for this? Is there policy? You know, I'm wondering from like even a systems lens, like, what can we do right now to address, because the need is so much greater than the services available.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw collaboration over competition in the chat, and I mean, I am feeling that. Um, so many of us are doing such great work that, like, what would it feel like for us to like uplift each other's work instead of like being in competition all the time. However, because of the way that funding works, there's also that weird competition piece, and so I think that there just needs to be again, transparent conversation about that. Like, we want to support each other, and like we also want to have this programming, and like maybe there are ways we can figure that out. But I think when it comes to that other piece, as I said, I work on another project, and they do root cause analyses of tobacco use in their communities. And something that we hear a lot of the time is there's not youth spaces. Period. There's just not youth spaces. And so a lot of young folks see that and feel it, and they automatically know that they're not as important because the spaces where they could be are not there. And so what does that lead to? It leads to young folks trying other things to fill up their time, as people would. And so like that, again, that's in my other project. But what we're seeing is that young people really are wanting these spaces where they get to be with each other, and where they also get to build good relationships with adults. I mean, a lot of times that would mean specific youth spaces where both those things are able to happen.
Wow.
I just want to call out a wonderful program in Maine. We have more than one, but one program that has really shifted their work through this Cultivating Mattering, but just recognizing the power of being outdoors, right? Open space, right? Just being in nature and how healing that is. And just, you know, whether it's hikes or just walks, or, you know, take advantage of the ocean or water that's in your community, is just creating safe spaces for youth in nature, right? So they want to spend time, and how important that is to their health and their well-being. So it's yeah, just there's no one pathway, right? It's just, yeah. And I think for funders too, is just I always think about, you know, these 2-year grants or 3-year grants. You're just getting the work going, right? So maybe a longer 10, maybe it's 5 years as an example.
Excellent. Okay, last word, pause.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think agreeing with Daniel, everybody, first of all, but Daniel about the need for the conversation to be had, because I think some part of that competition, unfortunately, is funder based, or stems from funding priorities, or trying to fit into these funding buckets and all of these different things, and or the funders not necessarily being explicit about supporting that collaboration in a sense, and some mindset stuff, because like you said, the need is continuing to increase and grow, and I don't know that there's no need for competition at the end of the day. We're all trying to serve kids, even if we're working with the same kid. There's things that we do that maybe other folks don't do, or they do that we don't do. So I don't think there's just one way of people have to just deal with one organization, or just any one thing. We need to find ways to figure out how we can be intentional just about working together. I think it just starts with us and wanting to do it.
Amazing.